E-101 Beta, E-102 Gamma, E-103 Delta, E-104 Epsilon, E-105 Zeta. All 5 of these robots made up the beginning of Dr. Eggman's special new force of robots in Sonic Adventure. This is the robot series that would go on to give us characters like our legend Team Dark's Omega and Sigma, as seen in the Scrapnik Island miniseries of comics. But none of this would have been possible without these 5 robots and their very cruel fates. And even more specifically, it wouldn't have been possible without the noble behavior of one of them, Gamma.
Preparation complete.
Sonic Adventure has a plethora of multiple storylines, but if I were to pick a favourite, it would have to be Gamma's. It's funny because Gamma's storyline is easily the biggest side quest of the series, as it tells a mostly self-contained story about a robot coming to terms with the damnation of its own existence and taking steps to rectify it. This is generally the stuff that Pixar shorts are made of, and I'm glad that it frequently gets the appreciation it deserves, because I really love it. Gamma is my favourite one and done character of the series, so it's fun to talk about him and his brothers that all make up the E-100 series. Which, when you think about it, is probably one of the most rapidly and tragically doomed series of advanced robots to ever grace a video game. Their story made for one of the most compelling parts of the game. It's the perspective of Gamma, a tale of self-awareness, sacrifice, and ultimately, redemption. A robot once loyal to Eggman who eventually realized, no, his path was not the correct one, and he set off on a rescue mission. One robot against all of his brothers, to set them, or rather the animals within them, free from a terrible fate. Gamma and his brothers could easily be seen as just another set of badniks, which in fairness, they kind of are. They were created by Eggman to be loyal to each and every one of his demands, such as finding a tailed frog. It's an odd task, but clearly someone had to do it. From the very beginning, Gamma's path is intertwined with his elder brother, Beta. Eggman pits the two against each other from the start, outright telling Gamma that he's not as advanced as his brother, then forcing them to fight for a spot on the crew of the egg carrier. However, what no one, least of all Beta himself, expected was for Gamma to actually win. Beta non-verbally begs Eggman to take him along, to which Eggman reluctantly agrees. Of course, there will be some caveats to that which will be made obvious later. And if only because this one victory has set into motion the events that will determine the lives of Gamma, Beta, and the rest of the E-100 series. Winning that fight, in a way, doomed everyone. Of course, Eggman demands that Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, and Gamma, with the notable exception of Beta, search for Froggy, who currently has a Chaos Emerald in him. It's somewhat fortunate for Gamma and unfortunate for everyone else that they all seem to have picked the wrong colour shape of frog, and only Gamma got it right. What's interesting is Eggman's dismissive reaction. He praises Gamma for finding the frog, but for everyone else, he bullies and acts out against them, and ends up teleporting them to unknown fates. For now. But we have to realise that Eggman set it up as a competition. There was only room for one of the 4 to win. Not all of them were going to bring Froggy back. He knew this. And yet he disposed of them anyway, only directing any kind of praise to Gamma. No room for failure in the Doctor's book. A detail that I love is that Delta looks to Gamma while he's teleporting. It's as if he's hurt by this entire incident. Gamma is now left with the knowledge that he accidentally brought upon an undesirable fate towards all of his brothers by winning this contest. But he hides it. He has more important things to focus on right now. For one thing, let's take a look at the recap that Gamma has straight after this.
I am a robot. I was created by Dr. Robotnik. Dr. Robotnik is my master. My master's orders are absolute.
He is fully conditioned. He did his job. That's all that matters. And now he has to follow out his next task. The true sowing the seed of doubt moment comes soon enough. Not out of any decision he makes or any order he has been given, but an observation. a moment of slight realization. He entered the wrong room. He briefly watches as his older brother Beta is dismantled right in front of him and is in the process of being upgraded into something newer, the Mark II. We can tell that this scene is a hard watch for Gamma, and it does impact him. We never hear any vocal combination, but hell, I'd wager that
"This is the wrong room"
counts. It feels almost like a kind of robotic trauma response. Again, I know it's from a robot, but he doesn't seem to have feelings in the conventional sense. But this story really does test this aspect. Either way, this sight will stick with Gamma for a long time. It's the notion of having failure being met with erasure. His brothers were kicked off the ship. Beta is being tortured. All that serves as a reminder that Eggman would no doubt happily do the same to him. Heck, if he lost that fight, it may well have been him up there, and not Beta. Beta has already lost himself as a result, and Gamma doesn't want to end up the same way. Let's take a look at the recap for after he found Beta.
I accidentally entered the wrong room and saw E-101 Beta. I confirm this discovery via ID signal. This does not compute. Continue with mission.
It's easy to see this as the true catalyst for Gamma's change of heart. The thing is, despite how unemotional he may seem, it is going to stick with him, and he's already a little compromised when he has to carry out his duty later on. He's told that he has to retrieve a bird from Amy Rose, who had been kidnapped by his much older brother, E-100. So when he attempts to retrieve the bird from Amy, she questions him, and her questions get to him. It's exposed to him that whilst he knows what to do, he doesn't know why to do it. She protects Birdie earnestly and she won't give him up, which is something that Gamma can't quite understand. She laments that she pities him, as she perceives that Eggman never gave Gamma feelings, only logic, and having just logic can't match up with emotion. Birdie ends up looking him straight in the eyes, and it does something to him, sending him into a frantic spiral before he relents and lets them go, almost without any kind of warning. It's from then that he understands just what is at stake, what creatures are being hurt. Amy thanks him, but it's clear that Gamma is even surprised himself here. The following recap effectively spells it out.
What have I done? I have released the girl and allowed her to escape. I failed to take the bird. The girl's behavior does not compute. The bird does not compute. What should I do now?
This follows through to Gamma's last attempt at following one of Eggman's orders, to kill Sonic the Hedgehog. But fortunately, Amy intervenes before either one can land a fatal blow on the other, and reminds Gamma that they are friends before she escapes. It's a genuinely heartbreaking moment there, as she tells him that they will meet again. I also find it an interesting point that from this point on, you don't hear a single peep out of Eggman. You don't see him again. Gamma was left to fend off Sonic and Tails, a mission that Eggman 100% knew he would never win. He believed that he had just sentenced Gamma to death, and he was okay with it, flying away and avoiding any responsibility. Eggman truly did see the E-100s as disposable. And funnily enough, one could make the case that it's a combination of this negative attitude and Amy's positive support to Gamma that set the E-100s on a path to their mutual destruction via her friendship with Gamma. From here, this all gets too much for Gamma. All this new information, all these new feelings. He overpowers his own programming. Take a look at this later recap.
I have deleted Dr. Robotnik from my registry as my master. I will act at my own discretion from now on. I will destroy all of Dr. Robotnik's evil machines and rescue the animals. My mission is to save my fellow E-Series friends. Search commencing.
Rather than continue with Eggman's desire, he begins on his journey to remove the players off the board. He now has the desire to liberate his fellow E-100 units, each of whom harbors a trapped animal all forced into servitude to power the machines. It's fundamentally fascinating that in the space of about a day, Gamma discovered not only how disposable his brothers are, but also how quickly he was abandoned himself. Gamma's only duty was to set free the animals. So, 4 brothers to terminate: Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, and Beta. The first 2 of the E-100 robots that Gamma goes after are Delta and Epsilon. These are the 2 that were banished into the world with no further purpose. Eggman just got rid of them and they went their separate ways. Delta, the one who looked to Gamma as he was being teleported, ended up in the Windy Valley, and Epsilon ended up in the Red Mountain. Both of these robots think the same. They have shared the same fate. They never questioned their purpose. They never questioned Eggman. But they were let go because they failed one task that their brother succeeded at. So when Gamma arrives, they shoot to kill. They don't hesitate. They don't question. They attack. They never saw what Gamma saw. They never went through what Gamma did. All they know is that they screwed up and Gamma reaped the rewards. So we can probably say that they probably felt some kind of murderous jealousy towards their former comrade. They represent what Gamma could have been. Just another reject drone, unfortunate enough to lose a competition. But Gamma is only interested in freeing the creatures inside. I don't think it's a stretch to say that what he considers to be his true comrade is the animal, and the machine is just an evil shell. It says a lot about what Gamma deems his own consciousness to be at this point. As per the recap,
I have destroyed Dr. Robotnik's evil machine by my own volition. Now I will rescue the animals. I rescued E-103 Delta in the Windy Valley. Search for the other E-series commencing.
destroying the shell is the rescue to him. The animal is his brother. Delta and Epsilon were, in retrospect, the lucky ones. They were effectively free, if just without purpose, until Gamma terminated them. Unfortunately, the fates of Zeta and Beta aren't quite so fortunate. Much like Delta and Epsilon, Zeta was also cast out. But unlike those two, he wasn't simply left to his own devices without a purpose. No, Eggman made sure to give him a purpose, one that was far less dignified, but no less what you would expect from his creator. As punishment for his failure, Zeta was remodeled from a free-roaming autonomous robot into a stationary defense unit in the engine room of the egg carrier, barely resembling much of his old form aside from his head and color scheme. But he was armed to the teeth, and that's exactly all he had going for him. While Delta and Epsilon had freedom as their curse, Zeta's entire existence was reduced to one singular task where he couldn't even move. He was trapped. It is very much a dark contrast to the fates of his two brothers, and easily the most extreme, and almost without a doubt, the worst fate of the 5 E-100 brothers. If we use Gamma as a baseline, there's no way these machines don't have some form of personality somewhere within them. So we can only imagine Zeta to be stuck in the I have no mouth and I must scream stage. No autonomy, and only the single function imposed upon him. No way to express himself, and thus, Gamma became Zeta's liberator, destroying the shell that imprisoned the peacock within. One can't help but feel a bit sad at the fate that Zeta had to go through though. He failed no worse than the other three, and yet he got turned into that behemoth. Sometimes you just have to wonder, what must have been going through Gamma's head when he faced him? That this used to be someone who looked just like him, and this is yet another reminder of what he could have ended up as if he wasn't lucky enough to have found the right frog. And with that in mind, what would Zeta be thinking? Would he be rageful? He too opens fire on Gamma as soon as he sees him, identifying his former comrade as a threat that needs to be terminated. But was this done out of programming, cold defense of his mechanism, or genuine untempered rage at the one person that ultimately could have seen as having caused him to be here? Poor old Gamma. It's so filled with contrasts. The free-moving Gamma here to save him, The trapped and stationary Zeta ready to destroy him. It's a heavier fight than the ones with Delta and Epsilon, as there is more of a sense of sadness in this one thanks to Zeta's fate. But alas, Gamma did what he was supposed to do. When the job is done, Gamma leaves the hot shelter, and in a brief moment, he contemplates his own fate.
Zeta rescue complete. Units remaining. Gamma.
Gamma accepts this entirely. There is a creature within him that he cannot live without, but that it must be set free. It's the only ethical way to go. He remembers Birdie. He has seen what he has rescued. Even now his logic remains strong. But from this point on, we know that Gamma's fate is sealed, much like the Terminator in Terminator 2.
It's over. No, there's one more chip. And it must be destroyed also.
Either Gamma is terminated by Beta, or he will self-terminate and set the creature free. Either way, this ends today. The story of the E-100 brothers ends now. And so, having spotted Beta, the battle begins. The final two animal-powered brothers facing each other. Beta, the original robot who could consider himself to have been wronged by Gamma after losing to him at the start of his journey, despite having been considered superior before by Eggman. He begged and pleaded to go onto the egg carrier alongside everyone else. But much like Zeta, Beta had been subjected to an absolutely awful remodeling procedure, discarding much of his old frame and refitting him with much more lethal weaponry and an altogether more durable shell. Unlike Zeta, Beta can still move, untethered by anything further done to him by Dr. Eggman. But now, there is very little personality, only violence. So when he sees Gamma, it's on sight. He has only one mission, to terminate the machine that made him this way, and he is single-minded in that goal. One can easily see this as Beta taking this as a grudge match, to take down the one who made him this way, much like Zeta. But is there even anything left of the original Beta? Has it all been overwritten and replaced with a mindless destructive slave? Who can say? But somewhere, I think, in the deepest recesses of Beta's programming, was that desperate need for revenge. The battle is extremely tight, with Beta's weaponry far exceeding Gamma's own, but this exceeding amount of firepower counts against him, leaving him open to Gamma's own far less powerful but still useful attacks. Beta was fighting like a mindless machine, hell-bent on destruction, while Gamma had the benefit of intelligence and tactics, assimilating his brother's techniques and finding weaknesses. Despite all his desperate efforts to eradicate his younger brother, Beta falls, having sustained critical damage. Gamma approaches him to land the final blow, but is caught off guard by Beta, possibly the original programming and personality of Beta, firing one last spiteful shot at point-blank range. Gamma takes a fatal hit, being blasted back and fulfilling what was inevitable from the very moment he defeated Beta the first time. The destiny that had been secured for him ever since he entered the wrong room, ever since he met Amy Rose. Or was it actually spiteful? Was this actually Beta's last residual bit of personality coming up to the surface and realizing what Gamma was attempting to do for them? To set them all free, let the animals go. I think it's also a valid interpretation to believe that he shot Gamma to repay the favour of what he was trying to accomplish, to set Gamma free too. It's a hidden gem of the writing of this part of Sonic Adventure that actually manages to have such readable ambiguity within the actions of these robots. It may seem very simple, but you can extract a ton from this. But regardless of Beta's intent, their destiny was complete. Beta succumbs to his damage and explodes, releasing the bird within him, now having successfully completed his own mission, dying with the knowledge that they were both meeting their end. Unbeknownst to him, Beta actually did Gamma a favour. The Flicky and Gamma silently communicate. They know what has to happen now. Gamma limps a safe distance away and finally accepts his fate as his body begins to shut down. For a brief moment, the computer AI of Gamma became one with the Flicky powering him, and he sees one memory of Birdie's family. Beta and Gamma contained Birdie's siblings. Gamma dies, finally seeing what legacy his and Beta's deaths will leave. They will be reuniting a family. It would be remiss of me to leave out something here. With every beta, there must also come an alpha, and in this case, it comes in the form of E-100, the prototype for the E-100 series, and one who, whilst not having a direct effect on Gamma's own story, links easily to their shared element, Amy Rose. Amy's story lightly intertwines not only with the beginning, but also after the end of Gamma's as a form of coda to the E-100 series story. Throughout her story, Zero is her stalker, chasing her and Birdie as the latter has a Chaos Emerald in his possession. Amy resolves to help Birdie find his family, and, as we've just explored, Gamma's story ended with the inevitability that Birdie was going to find his siblings again once concealed by Gamma and Beta. Gamma's story was one of self-discovery, redemption, rebellion, and sacrifice. Of all of his brothers, he is the only one to successfully overcome his programming. Zero, however, is the one that wavered the least of all the E-100s. He is by far the most emotionless, has the least personality, just nothing there but a big void. It's simply a seemingly invulnerable machine that never wavers in its attempts to kidnap Amy and Birdie. He's just an unthinking enforcer of Eggman's will. In a way, that makes it the least interesting of the E-100 robots. But what it stands for is interesting. Unlike Gamma, Zero never questions its orders or hesitates. In contrast to Gamma's interaction with Amy, Zero has no such will to question anything. It takes. It follows its orders by the book first and foremost. And there is nothing resembling the personality traits that would come to be part of his younger brothers. Zero makes a fatal flaw, however, when it wounds Birdie, who had successfully reunited with his siblings, and the result of this? Amy is pissed off. Making use of an electric fence to expose its core, Amy fights and destroys her stalker once and for all. It's a very fitting end. Amy was one of the elements that set into motion the events that resulted in the destruction of the E-100 series. She kinda destroyed all of them. It's dark, but in a way, it kinda fits that she is the one to end the life of the final active member at that point. Zero dies, and to cap it all off, he is the only one of the E-100s not to be powered by any kind of animal. And really, that does say it all. You could say it's representative of him not having any kind of soul to release back into freedom. Inside all that metal, despite all that circuitry, there is absolutely nothing in there, unlike his brothers. Gamma is an incredible character, one that has stuck with Sonic fans throughout the years, and one who will no doubt remain as beloved in the franchise as he is right now. He is a one-game wonder, and honestly, I'm glad. I feel like bringing him back would only tarnish the meaningfulness of his arc in this game, and I really love how they executed it. Within the universe, however, Gamma's legacy does remain in the immediate future after Sonic Adventure. In Sonic Adventure 2, we're introduced to the E-1000 series. Effectively, they are mass-produced versions of Gamma with slight alterations. It does feel like despite everything, Gamma's status of being Eggman's favourite of the E-100s came through here, as he kept the colour scheme intact. They were of course less intelligent and far more weaker and fragile than Gamma ever was, but I guess you can put that down to being the curse of mass production. Another tribute to Gamma is further explored in Sonic Battle, through Chaos Gamma, who was created by Eggman with recovered parts of the original Gamma, but nothing of the original Gamma's programming remains. This Gamma is an embittered, jealous version who holds a grudge against Emerl. He is a far cry from his original self, but even then, he still has his own little arc throughout the game. However, This was the only time that Amy ever got to see anything vaguely resembling Gamma ever again. The only acknowledgement that she would ever give him after his demise. Even this Gamma had its copies in the forms of the guard robos, albeit, much like the E-1000 series, they didn't even live up to Chaos Gamma half the time. But perhaps this is all a story for another time. The E-100 series continued to live on as a dying range of robots throughout the years in different forms, most notably through coming to a close with its final member, E-123 Omega, the most powerful E-100 series robot ever created, and one who now operates against Eggman alongside Shadow the Hedgehog and Rouge the Bat as Team Dark, with Omega having turned against Eggman for the crime of leaving him to gather dust. There is also E-117 Sigma from the comic miniseries Scrapnik Island, another E-100 series robot who was straight up abandoned by Eggman and found a home with other badniks who were rejected by the Doctor, such as Mecha Sonic and Mecha Knuckles, where he acted as their mechanic. The E-100 series represents a sense of nuance to Sonic Adventure's writing, and its willingness to explore themes and philosophies may be a little more advanced than just a simple battle between good and evil. Through Gamma's story, the game is very much asking these great questions about identity, autonomy, and freedom, and giving us a story that encompasses all that in a simple manner. On the surface, it doesn't look like the deepest thing in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but there are layers to it. And in the end, the key thing to focus on isn't on the machines that were destroyed, but the lives of the animals that were set free. It's an incredibly strong story, and it's why, in my opinion, that Gamma will go down in history as one of the Sonic universe's greatest characters. Thank you for watching this grand old rant about the big machines of Sonic Adventure. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you made it this far, thank you for giving it a fair shot. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to keep up to date with my latest shenanigans, and feel free to check out the Sonic Speed Quiz, which you can find in the shorts section of my channel if you fancy giving yourself a little bit of a trivia test. Honestly, it's all good fun. So, until next time, see ya!